This Sunday at the Bear Valley Church of Christ, we're going to be packing the pulpit with donations to go to Mountain States Children's Home. What that means is you bring your food items from the approved list this Sunday, keep them with you, and then after services, we're going to have the youth of the congregation go through the pews, collect those food items, and set them on the pulpit as a visual representation of our support for Mountain States. To find out more about Mountain States Children's Home and the work that we do for them, I sat down with Gerald Fulkerson, who drives our food every other month to Mountain States, to learn more about him and his involvement in this great work. So let's start with kind of what you do for Mountain States. So what's your role? What do you do? Who's involved? All that nice kind of stuff.
Every other month, we make a food run. I pick up at five other congregations other than Bear Valley, and we pick up foodstuffs that are used for the house parents and the children at Mountain States Children's Home. We do this every other month, starting February.
Okay, and so right now it's just you doing that, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so we go every other month, and you collect, and it's food, and you also said there's some other stuff that because they have a thrift store, right?
Yes, some of the congregations have clothing items, which the thrift store really is one of the good items. They don't take, I think, electronic equipment and so forth, but occasionally there are other items that go up there, and they have volunteers that go through what is brought up to see what can be put in the thrift store and what can be put in the food store.
Well, and that it goes into their pantry, which is organized like a grocery store, right?
Yes.
And that's where the children get their food.
It is.
100% of the year, right?
Yes.
So while we're talking about kind of the pantry, and let's talk about the campus up there as well. So you've been up there several times. So
yes.
What's it like up at Mountain States?
It's a well laid out. It was an original working farm, and sometime in 1959 or 1960, a group of men from the Denver area saw a need and had an opportunity to purchase this. In fact, one of the men that got me involved in this activity was Ray Lewis, and his father was one of the founding men, along with Jim Sims, Senior, and a few other men that helped get it started.
Well, and that's such a great example of faith, because they took out second mortgages on their home to buy that land, didn't they? They really believed in the mission of Mountain States, and they cover a lot of area in the Northwest, really serving a need for a large area.
I'm not sure exactly how far and wide they go, but their reputation goes further than what they actually can take from this area. They are well run, and some of the local news agencies have gone up and interviewed some of the people in the past. I don't know how recently that's been, but they are well respected in the community of Longmont.
What year did you guys come to Bear Valley?
I believe 04. My daughter and her husband, Mark and Janelle McCarty, and their kids came prior to us coming.
Okay, and
they influenced it.
Well, and that would have been 19
years ago.
So have you been doing it all this time? Was it something you got into kind of immediately?
Got into kind of as needed basis. He would occasionally have larger loads than maybe he and another helper could do. So I would drive my car and follow him around and pick up what he couldn't, and occasionally ride with him on certain days. Ray liked to have company.
You've got a lot of relationships with the people that you've been with.
Well, most of the people, the staff is just so welcoming, and you just feel like you're at home when you're there. After we make our deliveries and unload and so forth, they feed us lunch, and we have a chance to just visit and talk and to find out about each other's lives and so forth. And the recent executive director for, I think, probably the last 20 years. He's been there 30 years. He was there 30 years. But Randy Scow retired, and his son-in-law, Nick Mears, took over. And Nick had worked under worked with his father-in-law, Randy, for 10 years. So he stepped into his shoes and hit the ground running. He's doing a wonderful job.
Well, and there was another transition there too, because Randy's wife was in the school as well,
Yes.
right? And so
Yes.
now it's his daughter that is taking.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Randy's daughter, Nick's wife, is now I think, in charge of the education
Yeah.
system, the school there.
Well, and when we went up, our favorite part of the trip was they were in school that day that we went up, and they all talked about what an impact that the home had, and they loved Miss Janice. They all they did was talk about how
Yes.
great and wonderful Miss Janice was. So I'm sure that tradition is continuing up there.
Their daughters filled her shoes, filled Janice's shoes.
Great, and my other connection up there is Walter. You know, we talked about him, and
Walter.
he's a great guy. He's the development director up there,
Yes,
and I'm sure you've gotten to know him as well.
He's a wonderful man
And
very passionate about what he does.
well, he is, and he really does have a passion for that work,
Yeah.
and he puts on some other events that you've been to as well. Tell me about that.
The clay shoot is a fundraiser, and men, women from all over this region goes for that. It's held way out in the boonies. They say it's in Brighton, but I don't know. It seems like it's in Kansas. It's a long ways, but it's a wonderful event.
I went to that last year and had a great time. And then, did you go to the banquet last year and the auction?
I went to the banquet last year.
So tell us about that. What goes on there?
Well, it's there's two that they have each year, and one is an auction, and a lot of businesses around the community donate really nice items that are auctioned off, and don't go there if you want to get a bargain, because people bid it up. They like to pay more than maybe they would otherwise, but it's for a good cause, and the business people and the organizations in the Longmont area and around the region support it very well. And went to Randy's retirement dinner, and it was so emotional, but very joyous also.
Good. Well, kind of last question. So, what if folks want to get involved in Mountain States, and especially people here at Bear Valley want to get involved? What can they do? Can they ride with you? Can they? I mean, we've got the donations and that kind of thing. What all can they do?
Would welcome a ride along or drive along in your car when we have more than I can get in my van. That would be welcomed. And we never know. Sometimes I get in the middle of it and I have more than I need, and I can call Jack Hoagland, or I'm sure a few other people that would jump in and help. It's really an unknown. I always call the congregations that I pick up at the Monday before the pickup is made to tell them. And sometimes they give me a heads up about they've got a lot or they've got not so much. So I can pretty much judge it from there. But anybody that wants to support the Mountain States Children's Home is welcome to ride up and have a look at the campus.
That's great. Well, one thing we definitely need to talk about is what's going on Sunday. So on Sunday, we've got our Pack the Pulpit. Everybody needs to bring their items to Bear Valley. Well, at least the Bear Valley members need to bring their items to Bear Valley. And then we're going to set those in the pulpit to kind of remind and reinvigorate our commitment to Mountain States, because it's such an important work. And we really appreciate what you do to help us do all that.
Well, thank you. It's a good thing. And the young guys from here always help load the van. And I'm sure this Sunday we're going to need those guys to jump in and help out.